On January 26, Iran's Revolutionary Guard released footage of a target representing the USS Abraham Lincoln attacked by a swarm of drones. Their message was simple: we can see you, we can reach you, and our drone swarms will hit your carriers before your jets ever leave the deck. There's just one problem. The Navy has a new weapon that makes Iran's entire strategy obsolete. Let's look at what would actually happen if Iran...
They thought they understood the rules of naval warfare. Missiles for missiles, drones for dollars, magazine depth versus launch capacity. Iran built an entire strategy around one simple idea: overwhelm the fleet faster than it can reload. But last month, the US Navy launched something that doesn't follow those rules. Something that doesn't run out of missiles. Something that doesn't even look like a weapon. And if this system works the way the Navy claims it does, Iran's entire coastal doctrine collapses overnight. It begins before sunrise in the Arabian Gulf. A carrier strike group is operating 140 miles off the Iranian coastline. Standard posture: E-2D Hawkeye at altitude. 2 destroyers screening ahead, 1 cruiser guarding the carrier's flank. Nothing unusual on radar. Nothing aggressive on the surface. Just the quiet tension that always exists in that stretch of water. At 0512 local time, Iranian coastal radar stations power up in sequence, not all at once. That would be obvious. Instead, one by one, phased arrays begin painting the Gulf, fishing boats, tankers, and then the carrier. 6 minutes later, 3 mobile launch vehicles roll out from hardened shelters near Jask. Their launch rails elevate. This is not a drill. Iran is about to test the math again. The first wave is familiar. 48 Shahed 136 drones lift off in staggered intervals. Low cost, GPS guided. One way, they don't maneuver. They don't think. They simply fly pre-programmed coordinates toward the last known position of an American warship. At 185 kilometers per hour, they have 46 minutes to target. Iran's doctrine is simple. You don't need one perfect weapon. You need enough cheap ones to exhaust the defender. But what Iran doesn't know is that this strike group is carrying something that was only cleared for operational deployment 90 days ago. It isn't mounted in a vertical launch cell. It doesn't sit in a missile canister. There is no blast door, no visible barrel. In fact, if you looked at the destroyer from orbit, you'd miss it completely. At 0520, the Hawkeye detects the drone formation climbing through 2,000 feet, 48 contacts, radar cross-section roughly equivalent to a lawn tractor. The Cooperative Engagement Network shares targeting data across every ship in 1.3 seconds. Firing solutions are computed automatically. Under the old rules, this is where the cost problem begins. Each SM-2 interceptor costs over $2 million. Each RAM missile, roughly $1 million. Even the 5-inch gun burns through precision rounds that are not cheap. 48 drones at $30,000 each equals $1.4 million of incoming threat. Stopping them the traditional way could cost 10 times that. Iran expects to see missile plumes. They expect intercepts. They expect the American magazine to shrink. Instead, at 0534, something launches from the forward deck of the lead destroyer that Iran's analysts have never modeled correctly. There is no explosion, no rocket motor, no smoke trail. A cylindrical object the size of a small torpedo ejects silently from a canister angled 35 degrees above the horizon. For 3 seconds, nothing happens. Then its base ignites not with flame, but with a contained blue-white glow. It accelerates without fins. This is not a conventional missile. It is not an interceptor in the traditional sense. It is a hypersonic boost glide vehicle optimized not to chase drones, but to rewrite the engagement geometry entirely. Within 22 seconds, the vehicle clears 80,000 feet. Within 40 seconds, it exceeds Mach 7. But it does not arc high like a ballistic missile. It flattens. It skims the upper atmosphere in a controlled glide, adjusting trajectory electronically. No predictable parabolic path. No easy intercept window. Iranian early warning radars detect something, but they cannot classify it. It is too fast for cruise missile logic. Too low for ballistic tracking filters. By the time analysts assign it a track number, it has already crossed the coastline. But here's the part that changes everything. The vehicle is not aimed at Tehran. It is not targeting a city. It is targeting infrastructure. specifically the hardened drone coordination bunker near Bandar Abbas, the node relaying mid-course corrections and battle damage assessment to every launch site along the coast. At Mach 8, reaction time collapses. From coastline crossing to impact, 94 seconds. Iran's air defense network attempts engagement. 2 surface-to-air missiles launch. Their seekers search for heat. There is almost none. The glide body uses a thermal management skin that disperses heat across its surface. By the time the SAMs climb into intercept geometry, the target has already maneuvered laterally at hypersonic speed. Impact occurs at 0537. No massive explosion, no towering fireball. Instead, a kinetic strike, pure velocity. At Mach 8, even a non-explosive penetrator carries the energy equivalent of several tons of TNT. The bunker's reinforced concrete roof collapses inward. Communications arrays vanish. Fiber links sever. Generators fail. 48 drones are still flying, but they are now flying blind. Shahed 136 drones rely on GPS, yes, but they also depend on periodic signal confirmation and updated targeting reference from coastal relay nodes. Without synchronization, small navigation errors compound over distance. A 3-meter drift becomes 30. 30 becomes 300. Inside the strike group's combat information center, operators watch as the drone formation begins to stretch. Some drift left, some right. A few descend unin. Iran attempts to re-establish coordination from secondary sites, but the hypersonic vehicle's flight path was not random. Its onboard sensors mapped active radar emissions during descent. Coordinates are already being transmitted back to the strike group via satellite relay. At 0541, a second boost glide vehicle launches. Again, no warning loud enough. No time sufficient. This one targets a coastal radar cluster 60 kilometers east. Same kinetic profile, same atmospheric glide, same impossible intercept window. Within 6 minutes of the first drone launch, Iran's coastal coordination network has holes burned through it. At hypersonic speed. Now the drones approach 25 kilometers from the carrier group. Under normal circumstances, this would be engagement time. Instead, something unusual happens. 23 drones lose navigation lock simultaneously. Without correction data, their GPS guidance drifts outside tolerance. They descend gradually into the Gulf. The remaining 25 continue, but dispersed. No longer a dense swarm, no longer synchronized for saturation. Now conventional weapons make sense. 2 SM-6 interceptors launch, not because they must, but because they can. High-value targets get high-value responses. 4 drones disappear in clean mid-air bursts. The destroyer's 5-inch gun handles 6 more with proximity-fused rounds. The rest never make it inside 10 kilometers. By 0550, 48 drones have been neutralized. Total missile expenditure: 2 interceptors, 2 hypersonic strikes. Iran did not just lose a drone wave, they lost the network that made the wave viable. Here's why this matters. For decades, coastal defense doctrine relied on layered saturation. Cheap drones, fast boats, ballistic missiles overwhelm the defender from multiple domains until something slips through. The assumption was simple. Ships run out of interceptors, but a hypersonic boost glide weapon doesn't defend against the arrow. It eliminates the archer. Instead of burning through $100 million in defensive missiles, the Navy spent 2 high-speed kinetic strikes to dismantle the launch architecture itself. No prolonged exchange, no visible attrition. They can replace fiberglass wings and 2-stroke engines, but hardened coordination bunkers, radar networks, encrypted relay nodes, those take years. And here's the strategic shift no one saw coming. The glide vehicles launched from standard deck canisters, no special cruiser, no experimental platform, any destroyer with the module can carry them. Mobility equals unpredictability. Iran cannot pre-target a fixed site because the launch site moves at 30 knots. Missiles can be counted. Drones can be counted. But a weapon that arrives at Mach 8 from international waters with under 2 minutes of warning cannot be meaningfully stopped by current regional air defenses. That is what shouldn't exist. A naval platform projecting hypersonic, precision, kinetic strikes deep inland without crossing territorial boundaries long enough to trigger escalation thresholds, fast enough to be unstoppable, precise enough to avoid mass casualties, devastating enough to collapse coordination before the first wave reaches the fleet. Iran designed a strategy around draining American magazines. This system attacks the strategy itself. And the next time coastal radars power on in sequence at dawn, the question will not be how many drones can reach a carrier, it will be how many seconds exist between detection and impact, and whether that number is already too small to matter.